Hey guys, it's Dr. Justin Marchegiani here. I am live on YouTube and also live on Facebook too. Hope everyone's having a fabulous Friday. Any questions, feel free and pop them into the live chat. Or if you're on Facebook, feel free and put them into the comment section. And again, if also let me know your name and where you're at. I'll give you a shout out. And please feel free and crush the thumbs up button, crush the heart, give me a great share. That keeps me motivated and wants me to go and keeps me wanting to go longer here. All right, so off the bat here, Abraham mentions he has 6 tooth canals. He's 23-year-old. His teeth are the problem. Pulls out all of them away, like in a third world country. What should I do? Okay, so with root canals, number one is you really want to make sure you get your nutrition dialed in. So if there's excess of refined sugar or grains or inflammatory foods, you really want to fix that because that's going to be driving a lot of root canal issues. Make sure you're digesting and absorbing your food. Get your vitamin K levels up. Vitamin K are really important to help drive and deposit calcium into bone, into your teeth. Get your collagen peptides. Collagen's really, really important as well. Silica is also very important as well. And make sure your digestion's good. And regarding what to do with your root canal, I would go see a holistically trained dentist. There's a book by Rami Nagel on root canals too. That's worth the read. Some of the things I'm telling you are from that book. But see a good holistically trained dentist. A good resource for that would be IAOMT.org. Again, typically your tooth, once you pull the root out, you pull out the nerve, you pull out the blood supply, you pull out the body's ability to get the immune system over there to kill bacteria. So if there's no immune system there, there's no blood flow, right? Well, guess where a lot of the bacteria is going to go and hide? It's going to go to that tooth. It's going to go and hide there because you don't have the ability to go and fight it, right? So typically with the root canal, you would want to have the tooth extracted. You'd want a bridge or some kind of implant put in if you're going to go that route, just because you don't want a whole bunch of bacteria hanging out. But again, I would go see a holistically trained dentist to get a second or third opinion on that. Hey, James, happy Friday. Hope all is well. All right, cool. Keep the questions coming in, guys. I know I was supposed to be on here earlier. So everything for me is just totally off the cuff. I like the spontaneity aspect. It keeps my brain moving fast. All right, so what else is happening in the news from a health perspective? Let me see here. What's really big? What's a big issue? Well, off the bat, let's just touch upon cancer. I mean, cancer is always an issue. One of the big things just to highlight with cancer, everyone's looking at the cure for cancer. What's the cure? There's no way you can ever cure something when there are multiple causes of it, right? It's like, what's the cure of, surviving a car accident? Well, maybe it's not drinking and driving. Maybe it's wearing your seatbelt. Maybe it's not driving on the right. Maybe it's driving on the right side of the road, right? So there could be many reasons why someone gets hurt in a car accident. Same thing why someone gets hurt in cancer. But some of the big things with cancer, that I'll highlight, is it's going to be 90% is going to be totally preventable and diet based. So keeping your insulin levels and your blood sugar in check is huge. Insulin tends to drive cell growth. Also, cancer tends to like sugar, especially refined, easy to process sugar. So not the kind of carbohydrates or sugar that's in vegetables. As long as you're not eating too much fruit, typically not the kind of sugar that's going to be in berries or those kind of things, right? I mean, of course, there'd be some of it, but when you have the fiber in there and you have some of the nutrition in there, it tends to be kind of a neutral situation. It's really going to be higher sugar, excess fruit, excess tropical fruit, typically, especially refined sugar. Juicing fruits can be a big one because you suck out all the fiber and then that juice hits your bloodstream. That sugar hits your bloodstream pretty hard and spits out a whole bunch of insulin, which can drive cancer growth. Next one would be just not exposing yourself to carcinogens. I know it's like profound. Don't rub things that are carcinogenic on your body. Don't eat things that are carcinogenic, right? So that's kind of a foundational thing. So why there will never be a cure for cancer, it's totally marketing. It's just totally the drug company, trying to get the whole marketing thing out there, like this whole Susan Komen, the pink month in the NFL. I think it's November, right? Or October. Everyone dresses in pink. It's just about raising money for more drugs that can be patented. You can never cure something that has multiple causes. It's impossible, right? Joseph comes in, is grass-fed whey protein a good protein source? Yeah, it's a phenomenal protein source. I think it's excellent. It has a lot of sulfur amino acids. Grass-fed whey protein is shown to really improve glutathione levels, and glutathiones is your it's your master antioxidant. So antioxidants are important because when you're stressed or you get exposed to toxins, you tend to lose electrons, right? Oxidation is a loss of electrons, and your body utilizes antioxidants or the anti-loss of electron nutrients, and glutathione is important. So whey protein can be helpful. Grass-fed is just important because that's what cows eat, right? Cows eat grass. So if you give cows grass, they're going to have a healthy fatty acid profile. The proteins in the bee just need better. So that typically you have better ratio of conjugated linoleic acid, better omega-6 to omega-3 ratio, probably less toxins and chemicals passed down in the protein source. See here, sugar and iron feed cancer. Well, I mean, iron, again, it's one of those things. Typically females tend to not have an issue with iron because they're menstruating. Right, if they're menopausal, maybe. With guys, yeah, I mean, it's good to give blood a few times a year because iron does create a lot of oxidative stress. So if it's too high, right? So you want to make sure you give blood a few times a year. That's helpful to keep your iron levels in check for sure. So getting back to the whole cancer thing, right? A lot of what you see with people talking about cancer, it's really a marketing shtick. There's so many causes of cancer. So if you go get chemotherapy or you get some type of immunotherapy that's going to, let's say, help knock those cancer cells down. Well, the question is, what caused those cancer cells to accumulate to begin with, right? Was it a sugar thing? Was it a toxin thing, right? Do you live on a golf course where pesticides are being sprayed every day? Are you drinking a whole bunch of chemicals in your water because you're not filtering your water appropriately? Do you have low vitamin D, which has a major effect on your immune system? Do you have chronic underlying infections that are there and creating inflammation? Do you have malabsorption and leaky gut, right? These are all big issues that need to be asked. See, Riley asked, hey, Riley, are probiotics with a higher flora count, 50 billion, always better to lower ones? If both are high quality, if not, why? Well, I mean, typically you want like good levels of probiotics, but it's not necessarily the be all or end all because a lot of probiotics, how they're encapsulated, a lot of them don't make it to where they need to go anyway. So a lot of people, they're just overcompensating because their encapsulation technology is poor. So they're kind of overshooting it so they get more into the intestines. That's kind of one school of thought. The other school of thought is that a lot of people, they're telling you how many probiotics are in there when the pill's packaged, not what's on expiration. So like when I formulate my ProBioFlora, what's on the pill is what we expect to be there 2 years at expiration, and also factoring in transport and heat and all these things. So we overdo it so we can compensate, and we know that, hey, worst case scenario, this person will get at least this amount. So when you're looking at good probiotics, it's going to be maybe double or triple the amount that's in there just because of the anticipation of heat and time and all that. So it's really wanting to make sure you get the ultimate. The next is the encapsulation technology. And then I'm also a big fan of the phage. Phage is really helpful for helping to knock down dysbiotic bacteria. Phage are these, they're like benevolent viruses found in the soil, and they can be really helpful at helping with bad bacteria. Let's see here. Vivek asks, how can one gain weight while keeping the probability of becoming insulin resistant low? Well, typically if you need to gain weight, typically you're already insulin sensitive to begin with. If you're really trying to gain weight, it could be you're not getting enough calories in there. It could be a malabsorption thing. Maybe you're not, maybe you're malabsorbed. People that tend to be in that category tend to be ectomorphs. Ectomorphs are like kind of like your basketball player, right? Taller, leaner, just harder to put on weight. It's a hard gainer. So making sure you're eating enough calories. So if you need 15 or 1600 calories to like maintain, you'd want to get an additional 500 to 800, maybe 1000 calories a day. And that make sure your carbohydrates are dialed in per your activity. If you're just trying to gain weight because you want to gain weight and it's not for a sport, or it's not because you're working out more and lifting weights, then you got to be careful. But if you're lifting weights, then yeah, you make sure the calories are up. And of course the carbs can go up. And if you're lifting weights, it's not going to be a big deal at all. Let's see here. Multidimensional says, I feel like my liver needs support. I eat a clean diet. I use carb cycling, focusing on good fats and high nutrient foods. I supplement. I have Hashimoto's. I've cut out all trigger foods. So I think the question is liver support. So of course, you know, your cruciferous vegetables are going to be really important for liver support. Number two is just getting good quality sulfur amino acids. So that could be from collagen peptides or good clean whey protein. It could also be from making sure your digestion is really good, like you're digesting all that good animal protein you're eating and you're not bloating, you're gassy, and you have good bowel movements. Those are some good steps. Of course, adding in phase 1 and phase 2 detoxification support. So phase 1 is going to be milk thistle, silymarin, dandelion, fringe tree root, B vitamins, taurine. These are things to help take these fat soluble toxins and make them water soluble. And then phase 2 is going to be primarily the sulfur amino acids. So driving in the good whey protein or the good animal products, or taking, you know, a sulfur based amino acid support to push those amino acids up. Like in my line, we use either antioxidant supreme or liver supreme for phase 1, and we use detox aminos for phase 2 support. But again, from a food perspective, I just went over different things you can do there, but therapeutically, you may want to add in a supplement to help that too. Hey, Matt. Yep, good feedback. Sammy, milk thistle, those are all good supports for sure. Let's see here. Any tips on gaining weight on an AIP diet? Yeah, make sure you keep your, you know, find the macros that you feel best on, like what's your protein, fat, and carb percentages, and then just make sure the calories are there. It's that simple. Again, if you're lifting a lot of weight or you're trying to put on muscle, you know, it's two different things. So you got to give me more specifics on that. Matt White says, same boat, high fat, high protein, carbs, so you can tolerate. Yep, that is true. Again, just the key is if you know, high fats, good proteins. Typically, you're not going to overdo proteins unless you're doing a ton of protein powder. But, you know, if you're lifting a lot of weights and you're doing like a workout or two a day because you're trying to build mass, then, you know, you may need that protein. So just, you know, kind of, it's got to be specific to what you are doing workout wise too. James says, hypothetically, if you or your family member was diagnosed with some sort of cancer, God forbid, what would your first protocol be? Would you go the chemo route? Besides keeping sugar low, what would you do next? So I would not go the chemo route. So the first thing I would do is I would look at all toxic vectors. I would look at all toxicity vectors. I'd really make sure everything is dialed in that area. For the most part, it is. I would start introducing coffee enemas daily to help my body expel toxins. Again, you know, the old expression, the best part of waking up is Folgers in your butt. So coffee enemas, not the best way to be waking up every day, but they're very helpful if you need it to get the toxicity down. So I think that's great. Also introducing saunas, that's great as well. And they have some really good holistic oncologists that are out there that can do more things specifically. But of course, I make sure all the foods are dialed in. Turmeric, curcumin, a lot of chemotherapy drugs are being modeled after some of the chemicals that are in turmeric and curcumin. So I would look at getting a good liposomal curcumin on there. I'd make sure my glutathione's optimal. I make sure my antioxidants are optimal. I make sure that I'm digesting and breaking down my food. Of course, I lean more ketogenic. If it's a breast cancer issue, I'd probably add in some iodine. I would do some systemic enzymes like serrapeptidase to really get my body's ability to get apoptosis back on track, which is basically killing other cells so they don't overgrow, so to speak. So that'd be my first step. And then if I still had issues, I would seek out someone that was kind of more of a holistic oncologist that understands both sides of the fences on that one. Let me go over to Facebook and I'll come back over to YouTube here in a bit. All right. Hey, Jeff writes to me. Hey, Jeff, hope you're doing well. I've been taking the GI Clear 1, 2, and 5 for the H. pylori and took antibiotics on the second round, the clarithromycin. The infection still won. Okay. So again, number one, Jeff's talking about protocol that we use to knock out H. pylori. I typically don't recommend clarithromycin. It's part of the triple therapy for H. pylori unless it's a last case, worst case scenario. But I would look at making sure your partner is addressed because they can potentially pass it back to you. So I go look at your partner, and I would also, retest, and then continue to retreat again, and maybe add some probiotics in there while we do it again. See, Ken says dysbiosis is a nightmare, but it's very common in today's society. I think more people should know this. Too bad most docs don't. Yep, I totally agree. Dysbiosis is huge. Again, 80% of antibiotics are fed to animals, so we get a lot of this antibiotic exposure. It's also unnecessarily prescribed, so it's messing up our gut. It's creating a imbalance where we have a lot more bad stuff and a lot lower good stuff, which is affecting our immune system for sure. And our diets tend to feed a lot of the dysbiotic crap. So I totally agree with that, Ken. Thanks for sharing. Taneem says, what is your opinion about high carb and or low fat protein? Again, if you need carbohydrates, you should probably be an ectomorph body type, right? You can handle the carbohydrates. You tend to be more insulin sensitive anyway. You may be more active as well. You may just feel better with carbs. And then also your blood sugar markers look good. Your insulin's not high, right? You're able to tolerate sugar. Maybe you run a functional glucose tolerance test and your blood sugar comes down in an adequate time. But again, most people have some level of insulin resistance. So typically my default is always going lower carbohydrate and then adjusting the carbs up based on how you feel and based on your activity and based on your body type. If you're ectomorph, for sure, that's the basketball player kind of body type. We can definitely dial that up. Hope that helps. Let's see here. All right, let me go back to YouTube, guys. Let's see where we got it here. All right. Where are we? So I hope that answered your question, James, on the cancer, but that's where I'm at with it. Ever heard of post-finasteride propitious syndrome? Yep. Treat anyone with it? Yep. Okay, yeah. So finasterides are a 5-alpha reductase blocker. It's basically the enzyme that converts testosterone to dihydrotestosterone. It's it's a stronger version of testosterone that's typically used to help with hair loss because DHT tends to starve out the blood supply that goes to the hair. So giving a 5-alpha reductase inhibitor tends to block the DHT, which allows blood flow back to the hair. So you see it with like, Rogaine, minoxidil, the topical kind of stuff. So if you're going to do that, do it topically for sure. Some people can do it because of maybe prostate issues. I need to know a little bit more about what's going on with you, but typically we use pumpkin seed. We'll use saw palmetto, we'll do zinc, we'll do selenium, also lycopene. These are phenomenal to help with those type of issues. What about diets? What about blood type? I'm type A. I'm not doing well with mammalian meat except with betaine. Yeah, so again, the whole blood typing thing came from James and Peter D'Adamo. They're naturopaths up in the Northeast. Don't necessarily agree with a lot of what they say on the blood typing thing. Again, blood type O's are like 50% of the population, and they basically recommend a paleo diet for the blood type O. So of course, if you put 50% of the population on a paleo diet, then it makes sense. The whole idea around blood type A's is the fact that they tend to have lower hydrochloric acid, so they feel better on easier to process vegetable protein, which I get. The problem with it is there are a lot of type A blood types that exist in parts of the world that have long winters. So existing on plant protein, let's say from an evolutionary perspective, over hundreds of thousands of years, when there was permafrost and plant protein wasn't available, you had to eat meat. So from a evolutionary standpoint, it doesn't quite pass the muster. But again, if you feel better taking the betaine or trimethylglycine, do it. That's good hydrochloric acid support. I have no problem with that at all. Multidimension says that Matt.J, am I missing phase 1? Well, yeah, take the herbs. So in my line, we would do Liver Supreme to help with phase 1 detox. Phase 1 is that fat soluble to water soluble toxin. So I hit either the Liver Supreme up or the antioxidant Supreme to help. And then Jeff says, yeah, we keep being together. So you nailed it. Absolutely. So she may have given you that H. pylori back. This is common, guys. Spouses and partners and significant others and even pets and even family members in a non-intimate way can pass things back and forth. So you got to be careful of that when we're trying to knock out bugs. Yep. Keep that in the back of your mind. What are some of your staple meals and what do you make in bulk at the beginning of the week? Okay. So I had like 3 hard-boiled eggs this morning. And then right now I'm just sitting on a mineral water. And I also had a bulletproof collagen, a bulletproof for a butter coffee with MCT and collagen peptides. For lunch, I got a chicken soup that I'm going to have. And I also made some spaghetti squash and grass-fed meat with chopped up carrots and onions and celery. So we kind of I made that like a day or 2 ago in bulk. There's also a great place in Austin we use called the Studio Kitchen. They're great, thestudiokitchen.com. Tell them I sent you. We order a lot of pre-cooked organic meals from them and freeze it and then thaw them out. And they're all organic too. And it costs about $5 a meal. Most people spend that much on fast food. So when anyone tells me I can't afford to eat healthy, I tell them bullshit. All right. What's next here? Is it a good idea to eat fermented foods while on a herbal GI clear treatment? Richard, great question. I would say as long as you don't feel bloaty or gassy or brain foggy because of it, I think that is totally fine. Lots of good benefits with that. Some people, they have so much overgrowth that they get those histamine symptoms where they feel worse. So as long as you feel okay, I think that's totally fine. If losing lots of sleep due to new baby, which is flaring IBS and high cortisol, how to compensate other than getting sleep? Okay, well, first off, are you the husband or are you the wife? Because if you're the wife, you're obviously the one breastfeeding and you're not going to be getting a whole bunch of sleep at all. If you're the husband and you're just helping out, which I'm in a similar position, yeah, I would, again, it depends, right? Because there's certain supplements I may recommend to the man because they're not breastfeeding, where the female is a little bit stuck because they have to eat things that may not pass down to the baby. So I need a little more info on that. But of course, just having your diet dialed in, things like magnesium is going to be great. Ginger will be great. Apple cider vinegar, those kind of things will be great to help as well. I'm just thinking about things that help with inflammation but won't affect the baby. So I hope that helps to begin with. L-glutamine, bone broth, collagen peptides, all of these are great to help with the IBS and the stress. Thoughts on St. John's worts? I know 5-HTP is closer to serotonin, but I think St. John's worts actually, yeah, it's a mild MAO, monoamine oxidase inhibitor. Heard St. John's wort is phototoxic with sun exposure. Don't know about the phototoxicity, but yeah, it is helpful. I've heard some patients have very good feedback on that. So if you want to test, a gram or two, and if it works well for you, let me know, Matt. That's great. Any knowledge about AI diseases with idiopathic urticaria? So I think AI stands for autoimmune, but you can correct me if not. So urticaria is like basically a lot of hives, right? Get a lot of wheals or hives, and typically get the inflammation bucket down, right? Inflammation, the more that inflammation bucket is full, the more your histamine bucket will also be full. And histamine is basically produced by mast cells, and your body has to deal with it. So the more inflammation you have, the more mast cell activation, the more histamine you have. So if you go back and listen to my podcast with Yasmina Yakelenstam, who's the histamine chef, we talked about this topic, and she really hammered on inflammation, and she really hammered on the gut. So work on getting the food dialed in, work on getting the infections addressed, work on supporting healthy gut bacteria balance, and then you can do some natural histamine degranulators. You can do quercetin. You can do DAO enzyme, diamine oxidase from kidney. Those are really good. You can do vitamin C. You can do stinging nettle. All those are really good options. What about veggies with a food nickel allergy? Not sure about food nickel. Never really heard about that. But again, if they're organic and they're good quality, I have no problem about that. Can you speak about glycosylation? Yeah, great question. So glycosylation is nothing more than your blood sugar being higher. It sugar coats the proteins in your body. And this is basically, and as this protein, as the sugar coating of that protein oxidizes, this is what's called glycation. So think of glycation when you go to that fancy steakhouse and you order that creme brulee for dessert, and they pull it out and they bring the little blowtorch over and they kind of coat the top of it, and the top starts getting brown. That's glycation. And that happens in your body when blood sugar is higher. It coats those proteins, and that oxidation happens. Not quite the blowtorch, but again, it's an inflammation. It's an inflammatory vector. It's a stressor. It's going to pull from your antioxidant reserves like vitamin C. It'll definitely be a stressor. And of course, part of what you see in diabetics and people with chronically high blood sugar is you get these microvascular aneurysms. So you have eye problems. They can lead to blindness. Of course, Alzheimer's and dementia because of the enzyme balance in the brain is messed up. So you can't recycle the plaque in the brain as well. Of course, it can affect, peripheral neuropathies and affect blood flow to the extremities, primarily the feet, and you can get like a gangrenous limb, right? I had to hold hundreds of those as they got chopped off. So I'm very familiar with that experience. Hope that helps on the glycosylation question. Or I think it's really glycation, but that works too. Let's see here. Also, if I can't tolerate caffeine from time to time, what does that say about the status of my adrenals? Well, I don't know. First off, you could just have a CYP genetic SNP issue where you just can't metabolize caffeine well. So I would say if you feel pretty well during the day, that's a good sign that your adrenals are doing pretty good. You can also do a cortisol rhythm test so you objectively know. But if you feel pretty good, that's a good starting point. There could just be a caffeine metabolism issue. Let's see here. James hives are often seen with Hashimoto's. Yeah, because there's a lot of inflammation going on when you have an autoimmune condition like that. So that makes a lot of sense. I would ditch caffeine altogether. Best decision I ever made. You'll enjoy it when waking up without needing caffeine instantly. Yeah, I mean, if you have a genetic or a caffeine SNP issue, for sure, you're not going to feel good. Like me, a tiny bit of caffeine is, I mean, for me, it's more cognitive. I feel great. Like if I don't have it, I can still function and do well. It just adds that just a little bit higher level of cognitive enhancement. So if you don't have a caffeine SNP, it's a great tool. But if you do, it may not be the best thing. Again, there's a good one out there. It's called Four Sigmatic. Four Sigmatic is the blend. It's a coffee blend with some medicinal mushrooms in it. A patient recommended that to me last week, and I've been using that a couple of days. It's really good, and it's very low amount of caffeine. Also, just some green tea can be good, or you can just do a decaf holy basil tea. That's a really good option too, because you get some adaptogens there. All right. Need he ask about H. pylori and other bugs? Went on a week-long cleanse with raw food remedies, probiotic. Is it true that trying to starve out bad bacteria, it makes them just burrow deeper and stick around anyway? Well, there's some good research with going on lower FODMAP diets can really help actually starve out and kill some of these not so nice bacteria. So that's helpful. You just want to make sure it's not a fad diet. Like if you're only doing juicing, right? Well, of course, that's not going to be forever. So it would have a nice cleansing effect. But then when you go back to eating whole foods, what do you go back to? And you're probably going to need to go in there and do some actual killing with herbs because it's just not enough to starve out these critters. If that's the case, every starving child in Africa who, are known to be loaded with parasites would be parasite free, right? Because they're still starving. So it's not that simple. You actually need to go in there and do some killing. Just being hypocaloric will not be enough to do that. But again, keeping the sugar down, you should always be keeping the sugar and the refined crap down, but making sure you're having enough calories too. See here, Sent Fitty says, Dr. J, I found out I'm tired when I shift my carbs to late in the day, almost like I don't have enough energy to get me through the day. If I start with a higher fat breakfast, I'm very active. So I would not want to know, when are you active? Are you active throughout the whole day? When do you exercise? If you exercise or you're more active in the first half of the day, then it would make sense that you get carbs in the morning. For sure, that totally makes sense. Listen to your body there. Let's see here. Matt White says sometimes eating some FODMAPs and having it flare up a bit, you can hit it with oil of oregano and silver afterwards. Yep, that is correct. Can you speak about the importance of beta glucans in your diet? Yeah, beta glucans, you're going to see them a lot in mushrooms, but they can have a lot of positive effects on modulating your immune system. It's one of the reasons why I love reishi mushroom, especially in the wintertime, to get my immune system modulated and boosted up. Hope that helps there. Give me some Facebook love here. Anyone have any questions? Put it up on my Facebook. Give me a heart. Give me a share. I appreciate it. Keep showing me the love, guys. All right. Do you see any patients in Austin or just video conference? I see patients in Austin all the time, but it's typically via phone or video just because it's who wants to drive 30 or 40 minutes somewhere in traffic and such. So typically it's more convenient that way for most people, but I do see some in person. Any merit to separating fats from a higher carb meal? How do I hit my essential fat recommendation if I follow a higher carb diet? Well, if you're eating quality grass-fed meat, you're going to get really good essential fatty acid ratio in there because of the fats are going to change based on what the animal eats. Number two, 3 or 4 servings of fish a week, non-farm fish. Of course, if you want to add a little, in my multi-support pack, we do 1 or 2 grams of fish oil as well. And if you're doing high quality, good saturated fats like ghee or butter or coconut oil or avocados or even nuts, you're going to be fine from a fatty acid perspective. And then any merit to separating the fats from carbs? I would say no. I mean, each meal should have high quality proteins, fats, and carbs in there together. Most people do well just keeping their carbs at non-starchy vegetables. But again, it depends. It depends what's going on with you. If you're really trying to up your carbs because you're doing a lot of exercise, you may want to, dial your fats down just a bit. But figure out, change the macros and see what feels best. So you're active around 1 or 2. Yeah, so that makes sense. For having a little bit of carbs in the morning then makes sense there for you, Sent Fitty. Thanks, Matt and Justin. Really appreciate it. You're welcome, Needhe. Eating fats with carbs will prevent huge insulin spikes. It will definitely decrease it. Again, carbs by themselves will go into your bloodstream faster. It's called your glycemic load. Glycemic load is basically factors the glycemic index of a food with fiber and whatever other foods you're actually eating at the time. So glycemic load is really important. But again, you want to be careful of doing a lot of insulin stimulating foods with a lot of fat, because if you're shoving things into that fat cell and you got a whole bunch of fat along with that insulin, you can make those fat cells grow a lot bigger and get fatter faster with that way. What's your opinion on aspartic acid for raising testosterone in older males? Think it works great. Very good option. Give it a try. There's some research on it being effective. How accurate are tests for H. pylori, Candida, and SIBO? And could symptoms be on and off for an extended period of time? Yeah, so it depends on what tests. So in my line, we use the GI map primarily for stool testing. We'll do some of the biohealth 401H testing. We'll do biohealth SIBO testing as well. I'll also do DRG stool tests as well. I think they're very accurate. Again, not all stool tests are created equal. So, I just kind of gave you a couple of the ones that I recommend. And if you go to justinhealth.com/shop, SHOP, you can find some of them there in the lab test section. If someone has an autoimmunity to mushrooms, can increasing immune activity, which you don't want, have your own experience to produce this yourself? So if you're Th1 dominant, so we kind of have two poles of our immune system, Th1, Th2. If you're significantly Th1 dominant and you're pushing Th1 even higher, so it's like a seesaw, right? As Th1 goes up, Th2 goes down, right? And if you're doing things to drive Th1 up, like medicinal mushrooms, echinacea, like andrographis, glandulars, immune modulators like mushrooms, that can push it up more. And if you feel worse, that's a good sign. Again, if you also are doing a whole bunch of caffeine, bioflavonoids, resveratrol, pycnogenol, OPCs, green tea, that can push up the Th2. So if you feel worse on caffeine, it could be it's just driving your immune system out of balance. So you can let those kind of guide you. And, if you feel worse on that, then maybe there's a Th1 issue, and try some of the Th2 stuff, and vice versa for Th2. If that makes you worse, maybe try some of the Th1 stuff. And of course, vitamin D is going to be a good modulator. Glutathione is a good modulator. Those are helpful. Let's see here. Can you speak about arginine, nitric oxide, lysine balance? I mean, arginine stimulates nitric oxide, which is a really powerful vasodilator. Arginine is great for increasing sperm count, for vasodilation, for workout stuff. So I think it's a really good amino acid tool to add into the tool belt if you have ED, or if you're just trying to improve your workouts. I think it's good. And lysine is really powerful antiviral amino acid as well. Have you read Dave Asprey's Headstrong book? Have not read it, but I mean, most of these books, you can basically summarize the key take homes in about 3 pages. I'm trying to read less books because I find you read 300 pages and you can summarize all the action points in 3 pages. I would pay like 5 times more for a book if I could get the summary version. That way I could read it in 20 minutes and get all of the actionable information. So I try to read reviews and read summaries of books, because it's more efficient for my time, or I'll get books on Audible, but not so much. I know he talks a lot about mitochondria, lights, mitochondrial activation. So if you have any specific questions about it, I would love to answer it. Lots of talk about mushrooms lately. Do you recommend lion's mane? Yep, lion's mane is great. My favorite's reishi and cordyceps though, but lion's mane is still phenomenal. Turkey tail's also good. Can I get nighttime hypoglycemia from not eating sufficient calories for an extended period of time? Yeah, bet your butt you can. So make sure if you're waking up in the middle of the night, a little bit of protein and fat, maybe a little carbs an hour or 2 before bed, maybe a little bar or shake by your nightstand to help. Any herbal remedies or other strategies to mitigate need for nighttime urination? Well, first is don't drink an hour or two before bed. I was having some nighttime urination issues last week because I was literally slamming one of these things right before bed. I'd literally be in bed, like drinking it, because I just, I love that, that quench there, right? The bubbles are just great. But I was waking up. So I just said, okay, I'm going to taper it back a half hour before. And just a half hour before was just enough for me because I would make sure I time up, going to the bathroom in time for that. So first off is do that. Second off is fix the adrenals. Adrenals have a huge effect on that too. All right, let's see here. All right, Joe Rogan podcast has a recent guest, Paul Stamets, talking about mushrooms. Highly recommend. We'll put that on my list. Love medicinal mushrooms. I read a couple of books on them. I mean, immune modulating, deactivating viruses, modulating the immune system, stimulating Th1 really helps with inflammation. Lots of good things. What do you think about CoQ20? I imagine CoQ10 you're referring to. I'm not sure about CoQ20, but CoQ10 is great. Awesome mitochondrial nutrient. Gets ATP levels pumped up, especially important if you have statin issues. What mineral do you add to your water? Well, this is Topo Chico, so this is already mineral water. You can see, right? Mineral water. Yeah, we'll get them to sponsor our show here. So I like that. If not, I have real salt and I have a reverse osmosis filter and I just do a couple of shakes in it and that works phenomenal. Any sleep position recommendations? Heard left side sleeping is harder on your heart. It is because your liver's on the right side and leans over. So right side sleeping is better. Dr. Berger's got a really good video on that. And there's a new pillow out where it's like, it allows you to sleep on your side and then your arm goes underneath the pillow. I've been getting retargeted on Facebook for that. That looks really good. So I like that. But I try to sleep on my back and I have a special pillow by Tempur-Pedic. It's one of their contour pillows that allows you to go on the back and also on the side. So I love their contour pillow. I think it's their, maybe I also have their Symphony as well. Very, very good. Let's see here. Ken, speak on importance of testing for MTHFR methylation cycle. I don't do it for blood testing. I'll look at organic acid tests and look at FIGLU or 4-aminoglutamate, and I'll also look at methylmalonate to see how that is doing. Also check the gut, because if you have absorption issues in the gut, then you may have issues with that too. CoQ10 at 200 milligrams seems to be the point at which you may see the benefit. Yeah, anywhere between 200 to 500 milligrams I think is great. Thoughts on TRT? I imagine that stands for testosterone replacement therapy, but it could be thyroid. Yeah, so I mean, I would try to use herbs and nutrients and stuff first, glandulars first. But if you needed to use it, I would probably go with an upstream stimulator like HCG instead. And I would, if I did, you had to go to what I would use the lowest possible dose possible. CoQ10, yep, I know what you meant there, Allison. CoQ10, I think it's phenomenal. Really helps with the mitochondria and helps you generate energy. Let's see here. Any other questions, guys and gals? I think we're good. I'm gonna go have my lunch. I got some soup. I'm gonna have a ginger kombucha. I got some blueberries and some coconut kefir yogurt for dessert. So I'm excited for that. And I also, for tonight, I had some paleo apple crisp made, which is my recipe. It's green apples, lower in glycemic index, right? Crust is made out of coconut flakes, pecans, and walnuts, and it's sweetened with a little bit of organic cane sugar, which has a glycemic index of 15. So that's my dessert for tonight. Hope I'm making you guys jealous. The recipe's on my blog. Type in paleo apple crisp and you'll get it there at justinhealth.com. Hey, thank you so much, guys. You have an awesome weekend. I look forward to being back on Monday for a live podcast. I'll try to get these shows scheduled. So it's like, hey, you can depend on me being here at that time so we can get more people engaged. You guys have an awesome weekend. Take care, y'all.